Okay, for the last session, and I'd like to say the best session of the afternoon, we have two very exciting speakers. The first, I'll introduce both, I think, at the same time. The first speaker we have is Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed. He's a consultant anaesthetist at Calderdale and Huddersfield NHS Trust. He previously worked with us at Hull, and then we kicked him out, I think. But I did say to him this morning, I'm going to say a lot of rude things about you unless you tell me something interesting about yourself. Didn't give me any interesting facts, so he's given me free rein to say what I want about him. Now, having said that, more seriously, he's a very accomplished anaesthetist and a very good speaker. And in fact, if he went on a debate, you're not going to win anything against him. Extensive knowledge about medical legal. He's got a degree in law. And he's got leadership degrees, management degrees, name it, he has it. So if you give him any topic, he'll talk about it. There are really two women who can get the better of him. One is his wife and the other is his lovely daughter. Apart from that, he doesn't stop talking. So I'm going to be very careful about timekeeping and make sure that we all leave in reasonable time. So that's Ifti. Now, the second speaker, unfortunately, I met her only for the first time today. She's sitting there. And Rebecca is an ST8 in Leeds. And again, I asked her, what can I talk about you? And because I don't know her that well, I don't think I'm going to say any rude things about her. But she's here to talk to us about management of maternal sepsis in critical care. She is going to be a consultant in the summer in Leeds as an intensivist, and she has an interest in obstetrics, in obstetric anesthesia. I mean, what a rare combination. I remember when I wanted to do obstetric anesthesia, the first comment was, oh, we didn't think you were that dull or that dim. Couldn't you do something more exciting in anesthetics? So that's the usual sort of intensive care, all the clever people, and slightly less lot are on this end. So I'm delighted. Yes, I know. I'm saying that in this sense. Yes, I can get away with anything. At my age, I think I can get away with a lot of things. So I'm saying it. So I'm delighted that we have an intensivist in our midst who's also going to pursue obstetrics even after she gets her title. She says she doesn't have anything interesting I can tell about her because she's got two small kids, but she's hoping that they will grow up and she'll develop some interesting hobbies as well after that. But a warm welcome to both our speakers. So we will let Ifti tell us about a good doctor's worst nightmare.
Thank you for a very kind introduction. I have to make just one correction. My daughter has an upper hand now at home, and I'm very happy. Okay, now I'm surprised to see so many of you are still here. Why? It's a nice weather. If you go early, you will get your certificate. Because I assume that most of you are good doctors and you don't need to know this topic. You can leave. But apparently, I was wrong. Am I? No. Okay, now, first thing I would like to say is, although I have a degree in medical law, I don't regard myself as an expert in medical legal matters. So if you have any problem in your professional life, please don't come at the end of the lecture asking for legal advice. You may end up in trouble. I work for the GMC and they pay me for that, but I'm not their representative. So please don't bash me in the end. Yes, true, I'm a member of Medical Practitioner Tribunal Service, and I sit on fitness to practice hearing, and that's the connection I've been invited here to give this talk. But most importantly, just like you, I'm a full-time practicing clinician with 9 clinical PAs, 2.5 of them is in labor ward. Now, I assume that most of you know about Dr. Garba. She was a pediatric registrar when she was convicted of manslaughter, struck off from register. Medical fraternity was very upset. But they were not upset with her conviction as much as they were upset with the GMC decision to erase her. And there was a campaign. After that, good news is she's back on register and she's working as a consultant pediatrician. But how many of you know about the nurse Isabel Amaro? She was jointly convicted for the same offense. She was struck off from nursing register, but she's still off nursing register. So the doctor have better voice. But not many of you, I think none of you know about Dr. Aziz and Dr. Cornish. They were also prosecuted for manslaughter, but along with that, the trust was first time ever NHS trust was brought for prosecution for corporate manslaughter. And this is an obstetric case. A woman died because of falling into bed conventional situation which carried on for half an hour. And the coroner inquest happened and he civilly criticized the institution of care. Matter was referred to police, it went into court, but trial collapsed because of lack of sufficient evidence. However, Dr. Aziz, who was a resident anesthetist, was struck off from register. Dr. Cornish was a consultant and continued practice license. Keep this in mind, these two cases later on the talk. Now, initially he was planning to do a talk with Dr. First Night Mayor, but then I thought I should change it to Obstetric Anaesthetists First Night Mayor. I want to gauge the opinion of the public, how they feel of the 4 medical legal matters you may come across in your professional life, which one will you think will trouble you most. And the survey result overwhelming says that referral to GMC is the one which troubles you most if you ever come across. And complain, you guys don't care about it. Regarding coroner inquest and then clinical interest claim, there's a split. Some of you think that's important, some you think it's not very bothering or troubling to you. So I will touch briefly all the other 3 topics, but they are linked to each other, and then I'll come back to GMC referral. We all know coroner is there to find a fact-finding exercise. They're not there to attribute blame or guilt. However, during the inquest, if they found there has been some criminal element, they might refer the matter to police. Not all deaths are reported, but the most important you need to be relevant is anesthesia-related deaths need to be reported to coroner. And there are 2 types of anesthesia-related deaths. One is within 24 hours, if patient died and within 24 hours, last 24 hours he has anesthesia, that death needs to be reported. And doesn't matter when the death happened, if patient has anesthesia in which he had a complication, then all those deaths, doesn't matter it happened after 6 months, 1 year, they need to be reported to coroner. For example, is failed intubation, patient has brain damage, become handicapped or lose capacity, died 6 months later from brain injuries, that death has to be reported to coroner. Coroner job is to discuss with the doctor, investigate further, ask for postmortem, or can hold an inquest. And after the end of inquest, mostly they come to the conclusion of natural causes for hospital deaths, occasionally accident, misadventure, and very frequently maybe narrative and open verdict. For hospital deaths, there's not a single case where coroner have reached for unlawful death verdict, but watch the space. We're living in a different world. Now, the most important thing here I want to draw you that coroner now have a legal responsibility to write reports in which they have to give reason of their verdict and then what action they think can be taken to prevent that death happening again. And that applies to hospital deaths also. Everybody knows the Martha rule, recently enforced. That came from a coroner recommendation. Now, if coroner found during the inquest that there's an element of substandard care, they might refer the relevant person to the relevant authority. In case of anesthetists, or doctor, the general medical council. In case of nurses, the nursing medical council. The report is published and available to public. Now, so that's the first way you can end up with GMC. Let's come to the second, complaint. It's an expression of dissatisfaction about the service which NHS provides, for which a response must be provided. Now, I use a simple way of looking into it. A complaint is basically a gap between what patient's expectations are and what experience she has. I will limit my talk to obstetric experience. So, expectation can be unrealistic and care might be good, so it's called perceived gap, or expectation is reasonable and the care was substandard, that's a real gap. This gap can be because of system failure or individual failure. But the most important where we fall behind is the lack of recognition. When the gap exists, we go into denial. Complaint can be formal, informal. I will stick to the formal complaint, which is usually in written but can start as a verbal complaint. Formal complaints usually happen from the patient through PALS, or now recently, it is statutory obligation for local councils to employ NHS complaint advocates, so patients can come through those also. There are time limits for formal complaints that should be made within 12 months of the bad experience. So trust must acknowledge they have received the complaint and send an initial response to the patient within 3 days. And then trust is obliged to take reasonable time, which is not prescribed, to do the investigation and submit a final response. And in most cases, it's usually 1 to 3 months, depending upon the complexity of situation. What can you do? If you are a member of a medical defense union, you should contact them. You will be asked to write a statement. Please, 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 don't write it in a rush. Must review notes, must reflect, must recollect. Sit down, take the time from your manager. It is your contractual obligation, so you should take the time and then write the statement. What is not in practice, although it's been encouraged many times by the Royal College, OA, and Opinion Report, must find an opportunity to meet the patient. But that most of the time doesn't happen when a complaint is lodged. Most of the time, you just submit the statement. You have to remember, engaging with the complaint process is your statutory obligation, it's your professional obligation, and it's your contractual obligation. So please engage actively and in a timely manner, because trust is following a deadline of time limit. If you don't give your statement in a timely manner, they will still reply whatever they think happened, and you will be left out. Now what happens to complaint is it gets resolved, that's the good news, or it can escalate to the health service ombudsman by the patient. Patient might decide, no, that's not the route I want to take, I want to go on a civil litigation. Or if the trust during the investigation found there's some concerns, they can refer the matter to police, if it's a matter of police, or they might refer the matter to GMC. So that's the second way you can end up with GMC. Now, come to clinical negligence claim. It is a formal request for financial compensation as a result of something that has gone wrong in relation to patient's health care. Now, in NHS, we have a spectrum of care: accident, safe, unsafe, negligent, reckless, which comes under gross negligence. Now, most important thing you have to remember is not because patient comes to harm doesn't mean patient receives substandard care. Similarly, just because patient did not come to harm doesn't mean that they have received good care. So the outcome doesn't define whether care was good or not. Some relevant studies which might have been touched by during the debate: obstetric anesthesia accounts for 13% of all anesthesia activity. Anesthesia, which is good news for us, only accounts for less than 1.5% of clinical negligence claims made through NHS resolution. If any claims made privately, they are not in the data. However, obstetric anesthesia accounts for 14% of all anesthesia-related claims, which is down from 29% in 2007, but still overrepresentation in our specialty. And most common reason is pain during C-section, awareness during general anesthesia, inadequate labor anesthesia, or multiple attempts to do spinal or epidural. There are 5 elements of clinical negligence claim which need to be found proved in a court of law for the claim to be successful. We all know that. Duty of care, you breach that duty, cause the patient harm, and there's a link between the two, and the harm justifies financial compensation. All of these elements has to prove if anyone is missing, the claim fails. It is the patient or claimant who will need to prove that the claim, the burden of proof lies on them, not on the defendant, which is in most cases the hospital, or in occasional cases it might be just you. Standard of proof is balance of probability, and it means 50% likelihood that the matter in question is true. There are certain limitations. 3-year rule after the date of incident or date of knowledge of the incident. It applies to children only when they turn 18. 3-year rule doesn't apply to people who lose capacity in the incident, or they who have lacked capacity before the incident, or they lack capacity after the incident. Then the 3-year rule doesn't apply to those patients. Anybody on their behalf can bring the case anytime when they think that they have the knowledge. Now, most of the NHS work is indemnified by the NHS resolution. However, you are free to join any medical defence organizations. They're not compulsory for NHS work, but they do offer some added benefits, which you should look into it. Most importantly, if a claim is successful, that means court has found you negligent. And if you're found negligent in providing care to a patient, then there is a case that you might be referred to GMC also. That's the third route you can end up to GMC. So, a simple complaint can lead to GMC by any of the rules if you are unlucky. But that's not the only way you can end up to GMC. The bigger the circle is, that's the source of referral to GMC. Most commonly the public, which includes patients, relatives, friends, then the employers who refer doctors to GMC, and then public bodies like courts, police, and coroner courts. Doctors then can refer themselves for health reasons to GMC, and the others, which includes recruitment agencies, local agencies, and other regulatory authorities. Now, you have to understand, the law mandates GMC with 3 overarching objectives: to protect, promote, and maintain the health, safety, and well-being of public, to promote and maintain public confidence in the profession, and to promote and maintain proper professional standards and conduct for the member of the profession. Your fitness of practice is impaired if any one above, not all 3, any one of above is breached. Now, the process of GMC proceeding have 6 stages, and they don't happen in sequence, they can happen in tandem also. The first stage is inquiry, when a complaint or inquiry or concern received by the GMC. Second stage is triage. One of the GMC staff member, junior one, within a week has obligation to look at the complaint, how serious it is, that it relates, that it might have a potential to cause doctor's practice in question. If yes, then it goes to next stage, which is called provisional inquiry. The time limit is 2 months. The review stage, there's a limited and targeted information gathering about the doctor, and then they will decide. I will come to the decision later on. To the next stage, which is called full investigation. The reason first 3 are in green, that's the stage when doctor may not know that he has been referred to GMC or there has been complaint against him in GMC. GMC, in those cases, usually does things in background. So doctor may not know. As soon as decision is made that doctor should have a full investigation into the complaint, doctor is informed. There is no time limit for full investigation. 2 case examiners of GMC, which are senior member of GMC, 1 doctor and 1 non-doctor, they investigate the matter. They collect the evidence, and they can go at any length to collect evidence from previous employers, current employers, previous colleagues, fitness statement, health assessment they can ask, performance assessment they can ask. You can refuse to do those assessments, but they can ask you to undergo. At the end of full investigation, the case examiner will make a decision. I'll come to that later. If they can't decide, then it goes to an investigation committee, which is a panel of lay and medical members which are independent of GMC, so they are not employed by GMC. And they will decide what to do on the basis of investigation done by the case examiners. After that, or even before that, the case then goes to medical practitioner tribunal service, where two types of hearings happen: intermodal hearings and substantive hearings. Intermodal hearing means that there is immediate threat to patient safety, so doctor has to be suspended before the hearing can be concluded substantively about the decision whether the doctor is fitness to practice impaired or not. Now, at the provisional inquiry stage, the decision is usually close the inquiry without informing the doctor or employer. Or they may think that doctor might need some advice, some guidance for future. They may close the inquiry and inform the doctor that this came and we think that we should do this to help you in future to avoid such complaint or concern. At the end of the inquiry, the GMC staff member is not sure what to do. He may consult the GMC registrar office. They can, and then he make a decision for them, or they make a decision that full investigation needs to be opened. As soon as full investigation decision is decided, doctor is informed. And then a full investigation, which is done by two case examiners, they can close the investigation, or they may decide to ask the doctor to give some undertakings. That applies mainly for clinical competence issues or health condition issues. Or they may like to give warnings, which come in misconduct issues. Or they may like to refer the matter to medical MPTS for fitness to practice hearing. The decision has to be by consensus. If the two examiners, doctor and layperson, are not in consensus, then this goes to investigation committee. Or they may consult the registrar of the GMC. Now, it's very important to give you the powers which law provides to GMC registrar. GMC registrar sits on a GMC executive board. He's there to provide support, advice to provisional inquiry teams and case examiner. But most importantly, he has the legal powers to fast track and concern to medical practitioner service if he or she thinks there are immediate patient safety concerns, or the doctor has been cautioned or have been convicted, or there is significant discrimination against him by another regulatory authority. In those situations, he can fast track you referred to MPTS, which is the independent body which does the fitness to practice hearing. So let's dig into the data. Now, if you look at which one is the... So this is data from 2014 from GMC own data. The number of complaints against the number of doctors registered are reducing. They were 3.3% in 2014 and it reduced to 2.3% in 2023. The lowest were in 2020, which was COVID time. COVID did offer us a lot of protection, isn't it? We want it back? Yeah. Good answer. Okay, so the male member of audience, please listen carefully. Although male make 51% of the registered doctors, more than 70% of complaints are directed against them. Okay? That doesn't mean the female should feel happy about it. Okay, now this slide, I would like you to focus. Now, there's an old saying that with age comes wisdom. Okay, it doesn't apply to me. But the GMC data shows that as you grow senior, you're more likely to end up with them. Those who are in 40s and 50s and 60s, they are more likely to be complained against or concern raised about them as compared to those in 30s and under 30s, as you can see. Now, this is not like they are just more that age group doctor. This is the case number of registered doctors of that age group. Okay, in terms of, now come to the relevant topic, in terms of specialty-wise. Now, if you look at total number of registered doctors, GPs make 21%. Consultant, that I'm talking about consultant and not trainees, they're 30%, of which anesthetists are 4%. So we are quite a reasonable size workforce. The GMC doesn't differentiate between trainee and anesthesia. For them, you're all trainees. You only become a specialist in the GMCIs when you have finished your training. So if you look at that, anesthesia is on the top. Very little complaining against them. But I would like to put things into perspective. I'm hoping there's one or few obstetricians here. So I've taken the data from the AMC and put things in perspective. So we have anesthesia, around 14,000 doctors registered, GPs 80,000 roughly, obs and gynae 6,000, surgery around 20,000. But the most important thing is, if you look at the complaint ratio against the number of doctors registered in each specialty, anesthesia is only 1.1%. GPs are 3.3%. The highest likely are actually surgeons, whereas obstetricians are not very far behind. The difference between anesthetists and surgeons is almost fourfold, and with obstetricians around 3 and G3. So we are good doctors. We all are good doctors. Oh no, I got 2 minutes. Now this is a very good slide to give you some reassurance. Now, majority of complaints, 70% are closed at trial stage. Another 15% is closed at full investigation stage. Only less than 10% goes to MPTS hearing. And I think this is not important. If you see, the reason this slide is in red, although member of publics are more likely to make complaints, but they all get resolved at earlier stage. If you are referred by your employer or public bodies, you're more likely to end up in full investigation or later on referred to tribunal. And once you reach the stage of tribunal, you are very likely to end up with erasure, 1 in 4 chance, and it's increasing. Once you are on MPT stage, no action likelihood goes down, and sanctions likelihood goes up, and erasure risk is 1 in 4. Okay, now this slide is important because it's been alluded earlier. GMC has been criticized for being unfair to doctors of non-white origin, if that's the correct political term. Although they make up 46% of the total workforce registered with GMC, they are around 57% who are erased are of non-white origin. Now, it is very important to understand that burden of referral to GMC is huge. It is a good doctor's worst nightmare. Its prolonged proceedings are protracted and painful. It has professional, financial, social, and health consequences. Arguably, erasure is worse than criminal conviction, and that we found in the case of Dr. Garba. She was more worried about her livelihood in future rather than being convicted of manslaughter, because you can rebuild your life after conviction, but you cannot rebuild your life if you are erased from the GMC. And there is a survey done in 2023 by MPS of 197 doctors who were under GMC investigation. 1 in 3 said they have a suicidal thought, 4 in 5 have investigation, damage their mental health, and 1 in 10 quit medicine. But GMC own report says that 5 doctors in the last 5 years who are under investigation commit suicide. That's 1 doctor every year, and I think it's a large number. So not doing very much, you are in trouble if there are criminal conviction, but most importantly, criminal conviction means beyond reasonable doubt. Even if you're not convicted, but if you are accused of criminal offense, you might end up with harsher sanctions from GMC, because there the burden standard of proof is balance of probability. You are, from GMC data, you are increased risk of trouble with GMC if you are of non-white origin, you qualified overseas, you are male gender, you're above 50, you are a locum, you work in a small isolated unit, and in anesthesia if you're obstetric anesthetist. So take home message, take complaints seriously. Most patient grievances are reasonable and deserve an explanation. Complaint by colleague, be aware of that. We have talked about complaint from the patients, but they are complained by colleagues can also end up in trouble. Litigation may be a once-in-a-lifetime event, but be prepared. Professional indemnity is a good investment if you don't have an independent one. Lastly, GMC is not your enemy, but more importantly, it is not your friend. Stay away from conviction, reflect on your misconduct issues or conduct issues. Don't worry about performance. You're very less likely to end up with trouble with GMC because you did not provide a good care or there was some element of patient was unhappy, you got number. Thank you very much. I hope you are able.
Questions? You know, while we're thinking of question, the capability conduct, till recently I was the CMO for a large organization, and when I used to get referred concerns about fellow colleagues, my HR colleague taught me something very important. She said, if it's a capability concern, don't waste your time. You're never going to get a conviction. Conduct, go after him, but not capability, which is quite interesting because I think as clinicians, capability is something that we should address, but it's so hard to prove that it's really, really difficult to invest a lot of time and energy. So conduct is still easier to pursue.
Does anybody knows about, sorry, there's a question, sorry.
Yeah, it's just a quick one really. So in the initial phase, they've got 3 months to gather the evidence for the investigation, but then for the full investigation, there's no time limit on how long it goes. I'm just wondering why that is, because it doesn't seem fair for the doctors to be potentially waiting for years.
Yes, it's not fair if you look at it from doctor's point of view. For example, the hearing I'm sitting now, the incident actually happened, some of them 2021, 2020. Because of COVID, there was a delay. So it's now 4 years, now they are coming for hearing. So for 4 years, doctor has been under pressure. But for the robustness of the process, because I said it's a burden, GMC is under a lot of criticism for not doing good more to protect patient from the bad press. So GMC is becoming more and more reactive and more, you say that, trying to be more robust. In the past, because they take less time, because once they conduct the investigation, that's the evidence they can bring it. If there's lacking of evidence, then doctor will go free. They cannot add any more evidence when the hearing starts. So GMC now start doing more homework. Because in the past, if you go with less homework, because doctors' representatives, if they have a member of medical association, they are very good barristers. They are very good barristers. They do work very hard to protect the doctor. And GMC has been criticized for that. So now GMC is taking all the time to do it, which does affect the doctors. But as I said, GMC is there for patients. GMC is not there for doctors. I'm sorry to say that.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, and I'm sure there are lots of other interesting questions. But thank you very much, Ifti, for a very informative talk.